You already know what it is, man. It's Kid Billionaire B back with another YouTube banger. I'm not gonna lie, this one's gonna be a bit of a long one. It's a full breakdown. And in this video, what I'm basically gonna be doing is talking about the 9 steps to opening up your event space, getting it to $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 in a month. Now, like I just mentioned, this video is gonna be a bit of a longer one simply because it's going to be a full breakdown. I'm essentially gonna be breaking down the roadmap to a high level degree of what we do in Event Space Elites. Obviously the roadmap in Event Space Elites is a lot more detailed, a lot more broken down, has all the steps, you have the one-on-one coaches and everything like that. But I just wanted to give you guys an overall look and overall viewpoint of kind of how we break down the overall Event Space game so that you guys can kind of apply it, try it for yourself, see if it works out, all that good stuff, right? Let's get straight into it. Oh, well, before I forget, my name is Brian Waldron. For those who don't know, I did $3.5 million with Event Space sales in a brick and mortar business, and now we have the #1 event space consulting program in the country, breaking down how to find, fund, and fill your own event space. So in this video, like I mentioned, I'll be breaking down the 9 steps to opening up your own event space, and at a very high level point of view, so you could take it, use it, try to go do it yourself, and if not, you tap in with us. Let's get it, let's go. First step, personal credit. Now, why do I start with personal credit? Because most people do not have the kind of funds on hand to go ahead and open up event space capital. With event spaces, you typically will need about $30,000 to $50,000 just to get the ball up and running with inflation and everything like that. However, it's a lot easier to borrow that money rather than save it. So with that being said, typically you do want to have good personal credit, and that starts out with about a 680 plus. You want no derogatories, less than 30% utilization, less than 4 inquiries in the last 6 months, 100% payment history. Those are the #1 things that you want when it comes down to your personal credit profile. Now, why is this so important? Because, like I mentioned, if you do want $30,000 to $50,000 in personal credit, business credit, whatever the case may be, 9 times out of 10, people will not be able to get business credit because they don't have 2 years of tax returns or hefty bank statements or whatever the case may be. So they have to lean on their personal credit. So if I do want to lean on my personal credit, these are the #1 things that I have to look at. 680 plus, no derogatories, less than 30% utilization, less than 4 inquiries in the last 6 months, and a 100% payment history. There are 5 phases, there are 5 factors that go into credit, and these basically address almost every single one, right? So once I do have my 680, I have my 680, which to join Event Space Elites, you need a 680 anyway, unless you do want to get free credit repair from us, because we do free credit repair as well to get you to that 680. Say, for example, you're here, right? You got your personal credit in shape where you went through the credit repair process with us, which we've been able to get people to 600s, 700s, even 800s with our credit repair program. Now, it's time for that business entity, right? And one of the biggest things that you're gonna notice as we go through this business entity process in Event Space Elites is that one of the first things that we're gonna have you do is create an LLC, okay? Now, I know some people think like, oh, should I get an LLC? Should I get a C Corp? Should I get an S Corp? Whatever the case may be. 9 times out of 10, an LLC is fine for the beginning, simply because most people don't make, and I'm not saying with event spaces, but I'm saying most businesses don't make more than $50,000 their first year. If you're not making more than $50,000 your first year, an LLC is fine. You feel what I'm saying? If you are gonna do that, then yeah, you can go get a C Corp, S Corp, whatever the case may be, or you can get a C Corp with the S Corp election, all that good stuff. But the #1 thing is just have a separate business entity. You don't want to be operating as a sole proprietorship, right? You want to have that separate business entity. So now I have my LLC, but what's more important is how I format my LLC. So what I want to do is I want to have a generic name, okay? Generic names such as last name plus holdings, last name plus corp, last name plus enterprises, last name plus solutions, right? I want a virtual address or a business address, right? You can use a website like Regis, or you could use a website like Opus. You want a business phone number, right? You could use a website like Dialpad. You could use a website like Grasshopper. You shouldn't be using your own personal address. This is public information. And you definitely shouldn't be using your personal phone number because 1, why would you want clients calling your phone number all the time? And then 2, again, this is public information, right? This is gonna be the one that's going on your Google business account. Once I have my LLC created, I have my generic name, my virtual address, and my business phone number, now I have an actual proper formatted entity. You figured out what I'm putting down? Now I can go and sign my lease with this entity. which goes into the next part, right? So now I have my personal credit. Now I have my business entity. That's check, check. Now it's time to go and get personal and business funding. Let's go get that $30,000, $50,000, right? So one of the number one things that I'm doing when it comes down to my personal and business funding is that I'm gonna go and get personal credit cards, right? So that might be like an Amex Everyday, that might be like Chase Freedom Flex, a Navy Federal green card, blue card, red card, green, purple card, whatever the frick they got now. So the number one thing is to start with the personal credit cards, right? Because once you are in the relationship, once you are in the family of those banks, it becomes a lot easier to get the bigger cards, which are the business credit cards, right? So number one thing, personal credit cards, right? Number two thing, right? We go into the business credit cards, right? Now, what helps with this transition is business bank accounts, right? Having a business bank account with these different banks. Now, obviously, American Express doesn't have banks, but Chase does, Navy Federal does, Key Bank does, Truist does, Wells Fargo does. So all these different banks and whatnot, it's gonna be a lot easier to go ahead and turn around and get these business credit cards once I have that business bank account. Let me take a little water break. Yes, sir. So when it comes down to that personal and business funding, now the key thing with this, right? The key thing with this is knowing what banks pull from what bureaus. There are three bureaus, right? We have Experian, we have Equifax, and we have TransUnion. Every single bank, every single card pulls from a different branch, pulls from a different bureau. For example, Chase pulls from Experian. Key Bank pulls from Equifax. Navy Federal pulls from TransUnion. Knowing this right here just tripled your approvals. Now, in Event Space Elites, we do something called a credit stacking assessment where we do a full analysis of your credit report to see the exact banks and cards we feel that you personally have the highest likelihood of getting approved for, which is why we're able to get so many of our clients $30,000 to $120,000 in funding. But I mean, you can essentially do this yourself. Because I mean, we tell you what to put on the applications and whatnot so that you can get higher amounts. But if you want to go ahead and do it yourself, no fraud, by the way. If you want to go do this yourself, this is the easiest way to go ahead and do it. Right? This is the easiest way to go ahead and do it. Knowing what banks pull from what credit bureaus will instantly triple your approval amounts and let you get a lot more funding, right? So this right here can easily get you $30,000 in funding. Okay? So now we've built up our personal credit. We have our business entity. We have our personal and business funding, right? Now it's time to find a location. Now it's time to find a location. This is the easy part in my opinion. It's really just volume. I have a ton of videos on this. But when it comes down to space location, typically we look at, in Event Space Elites, we look at 20-mile radius of zip code, 2,000 to 4,000 square feet, right? Less than $30 a square foot. Industrial, manufacturing, or flex zoning. Easy. When it comes down to the websites, Craigslist, LoopNet, Craigslist. Now here's the difficult part. That right there, that was the easy part. I could give this all day. Said it on multiple podcasts, said it on multiple interviews. This stuff I could give all day. You know what's the real difficult part? People can't do it. People can't do it. People do this, look at 2 locations and get tapped out because the landlord said no, they don't allow event spaces. This right here is the easy part. Knowing the parameters, fucking easy. The hard part is the volume that it takes to get approved for one location. We're sending our clients on average 10 to 15 locations in the first 3 days of being onboarded. There are people who do not look at that number of locations in the first year of trying to open up an event space. What does that tell you? You need a lot of, there's some clients, we send them 40, 50, 60 locations. It's a volume game. If you want to get it, if you want to even scratch the surface of what event space elites can do, you got to be looking at volume, baby boy. You got to be looking at volume, baby girl. Knowing Crexy, LoopNet, and Craigslist, all these other different, this is only 3. We use 12. We use 12 different websites to find our clients' locations. That's how we're able to get our clients' location in 20, 30, or 40 days. Easy. Volume, right? So like I said, that's the easy part. Now, check. Let's go into space negotiation. This is the tricky part. Can't go too deep into this one. Why? It gets complicated. The number one thing with space negotiation is you want to know the exact questions to ask these realtors, which is why we have a broker agent realtor question list in Event Space Elites. It's about 15 questions of all the questions that you want to ask the broker agent or realtor to make sure that you're getting a good deal. Can't go into depth into that right now. It's going to take too long. The next thing is knowing the right offer, right? We literally have a calculator that will instantly tell you the offer to make on a property just based on the broker agent realtor questions. Again, I can't really break that down because it's a calculator. It's a proprietary calculator, right? So with that broker agent realtor question, that's why literally we will be able to get a rent far cheaper for our client than anybody else who's not in event space leads, because we know exactly what to negotiate for. That's why none of our clients go out of business, knock on wood, because we start at the right buy. Like, you know how they say the money in real estate is made when you buy? The money in event space is made when you lease. So when we're leasing a property at way below market value because we have that offer calculator, we're saving thousands. So that money that a client paid us for consultation for event space leads for the program or whatever the case may be, they're getting that back tenfold. Tenfold, because we saved them all that money on the offer. Next, LOI template. This is really, really key. Because if you don't know what to offer when it comes down to rent concessions, if you don't know what to offer when it comes down to the offer, if you don't know what to offer when it comes down to the lease length of things like that, you're gonna get screwed. The LOI template's already done for you. Not even only that, business plan. Can't even forget that. Business plan. Let me just make sure my camera is still running and good. Yes, we're still good over here. Beautiful. Let's get it, let's get it. When it comes down to the business plan, 9 times out of 10, people don't even know what the hell to put on a business plan. Business plan's already done for you in Event Space Elites. 22 pages, no, 21 pages. Market comp analysis, executive summary, everything already done. Business plan. When it comes down to the space negotiation, you need all these things. Can you do it without them? Yeah, but you're not gonna get as good of a deal. 100%. Right? Next part, coming down to the lease. Highly recommend have an attorney, 100%. If you don't have an attorney looking over your lease, don't even get into this business. Not even gonna lie to you. I've seen some bad leases. 9 times out of 10, a lease is one-sided for the actual commercial property owner. If you don't have a lawyer overlooking your lease, one that knows event space leases, like shout out Nadia, because Nadia has done all our leases. She's the #1 lawyer that reviews all our leases in Event Space Elites. She's seen tens of thousands of leases when it comes down to event spaces. If you have some jack-in-a-box lawyer looking at your lease, you're not gonna know what to look for. If you have some lawyer that doesn't know what to do or is just not in their best interest, they're not gonna know what to do. Have an attorney overlook that lease. #1 thing. Honestly, I could leave that right there. Have an attorney look over the lease, period. If you don't want to invest the money, don't get into this business, or else it's just going to come back and bite you in the ass, right? Check. Coming down here, build out. When it comes down to build out, right? #1 thing we want to look at, MVP, minimum viable product. Don't go spending all your money. You don't need to do all the bells and whistles for the property. You don't need to do everything all at once. A lot of times people get into this, oh, I want to change the ceiling, I want to change the floors, I want to change the lighting, I want to change this, I want to change that. You don't have to do all that right away. You don't. Create an MVP. One of the #1 things that you want to focus on, flooring, lighting, paint. Those are the #1 things that you want to focus on when it comes down to the build out. Coming down over here, pre-market. When it comes down to pre-marketing, we have an entire breakdown on this. But there's a lot of things that you want to do to prepare your event space to get up and running for when you first get that sale, right? So when it comes down to pre-market, certain things that you want to think about, right? Like your systems, your CRM, right? Pricing, packages, marketing campaigns, acquisition channels, all these different things people don't even think about. You know why? Because people are so arrogant to think that the minute they open up an event space, people are just gonna come running. It doesn't work that way. Rarely does. I've seen a lot of people lose a lot of money in this game. And I mean, hey, look, listen, you could be one of them too. I'd hate that for you when you could just literally get the roadmap, get the blueprint, and not worry about any of those things. Diabolical. And then the last part about this, sell. When it comes down to selling, this is the real key, right? Knowing return on ad spend, right? Like I said before, acquisition channels, sales script. This stuff is a little bit more heavy duty. I can't really break this stuff kind of down unless I make like I could honestly make a whole YouTube video on this and a whole YouTube video on that, honestly. But for right now, for this high level overview, I'm not gonna go into all that. But one of the biggest things, like I said, right? Return on ad spend, acquisition channels. Am I getting my leads from YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, right? Sales script, pricing and packages, knowing my pricing and packages to a T. Portfolio, having a portfolio with style shoots, right? All these different things come together to make sure that I have my 9 steps to opening up my event space profitably, affordably, and without falling on my face. Guys, I'm gonna drop the link for Event Space Elites. If you do wanna apply, I'm gonna drop the link below in the description so you can work with our team in order to find, fund, and fill your own event space at $10, $20, even $30,000 a month. And make sure that all this stuff is explained very, very cleanly. If you think that this is high level, you should see the roadmap that we have. It's a 7-stage roadmap that breaks down every single step, task, and resource that you would ever need to open up your own event space, broken down for you. And of course, you have a one-on-one coach, you have group coaching calls, you have a private channel to ask all your questions and make sure that all this stuff is done accordingly for you. Guys, my name is Brian Waldron. I hope this video was really helpful. I'll talk to you soon.